Hi, this is Adele from In the Hoop Online. I'd like to welcome you all to my YouTube channel, and it's just a channel that I've put together where you can find all my hints and tips on making the teddy bears from my website. So in this video we're going to look into how I go about needle felting foot pads onto the fur teddy bears. Now, if you're not familiar with needle felting, the basic items that you would need are your felting needles and your roving. Now, I buy all my supplies from a brilliant place in Huddersfield in West Yorkshire. It is near me. Brilliant company, family-run business. They do all your rovings, your wools, your needles, anything that you want. I also buy my wool from there and the dyes that I use on my ragdolls for the hair. So a really good one-stop shop if you're wanting your wool products. So that's World of Wool in Huddersfield. So you need your needles, your roving. Now you can use a felting mat. I like these brush style ones. You can use sponge. It's not essential, but it is a good place to start if you want to start getting into your needle felting. I also use a good wire animal brush and then a comb to clean that off afterwards. Now that's a brilliant tool to, I've said this on my other videos as well, I use these on my fur teddy bears as handbag carpets, but these are great tools to be able to clean your felting pads off of all the fibres. Particularly good if you're changing colours from lights to darks back to lights. You need to keep that pad clean, and that's how I go about that. So there are your tools. So there's a nice wire pet brush, your felting brush pad, your needles and your roving. Now these needles do come in different thicknesses. I don't know whether I can show you. The ends of a needle are triangular shaped with little tiny barbs on there, which when you're pushing those into your roving, it knits the fibres together. Now they come in different thicknesses. I generally start with a thicker one and then work my way down. As a rule of thumb, I'll start with the orange one, which is 32 gauge, and then go to the green, which is a 38. I may occasionally finish off with the red one, which is a 40 gauge needle. That's just to sort out any fine whispers that I might have at the end. You can buy assorted needle packs from various places. I think Amazing Craft in the UK do an assorted pack. I just use these because I just buy them in bulk, because I've did needle felting for many years and went through a lot of needles. So buy what you need. Try a sample pack. If you like it, buy some more. As with all things, I kind of get hooked and tend to go at things a million miles an hour once I've done that. So just buy what you need. Okay, so how do we start? If you look at your foot, this is the pattern in pink that we want to put something like that onto the foot. So if we start off with our roving, now you never want to cut roving. You want to be able to keep all these fibres as long as possible. Hold the roving about 6 inches down from the end, and then take the end and just pull. And you'll find that all the fibres will just gently ease apart. And that's how you start, by selecting your fibres. And just layering them up in a pile. Okay, so we're wanting to make this is a larger pattern than that is on the foot, so we're just using it as a guide. If you then want to scrunch your wool up and decide where you want it, if you want to decide whether that is large enough for the piece that you want. You can always add more. It's easier to add more than take it off, although you can take it off if you need to. So just decide whether that's going to be enough or where you think it needs to be. I might just add a little bit more on that. I'll just take a little bit more off. Okay, so just add a little bit more on there. Take the thicker needle at first, and all you do is stab into the roving. Like I say, watch your fingers. Do not go through your thumbnail or your fingers. And just keep stabbing away, bringing the outer edges of your roving in until you've got the roving somewhat in the position that you want it. So then I move on to my finer needle. Now, the finer the better, in my opinion, to go through the fur fabric. You don't want to make loads of holes in the backing of your fur. So moving on to my finer needle, you can see that it's going in a lot easier, and it's just a case of pushing those fibres into your foot and felting your roving as you go. Keep gauging with your pattern as to the shape that you want it, making sure that those fibres go all the way into your foot to keep those in stable. At the edges, you can go in at a slight angle to push the fibres into shape. You can see that by going in at this angle sideways, you're taking your fibres and shaping those into that oval shape, all the while getting those fibres into the foot. These fibres will felt into the filling, the fibre fill inside as well, so it keeps them in nice and firm. So I've got the nice oval shape at the top. I just want to round this in at the bottom slightly. So going in with the needle from the side, and again at this side. So we've got more or less the shape we want. Now, if you can see the roving on here, it's still quite fluffy. When you're needle felting, you want to make that as smooth as you possibly can. When it's smooth, it's felted in. When it's like that, the chances are you can still pull that off your foot. So if you think that's done, it isn't. Keep going with your needle. Now, like I said before, you can get holders for your felting needles. You can get holders that hold more than one needle. You can get them that hold 2, 3, 5, as many as you want. I'll just have a look and see if I've got that handy. Won't be a moment. No, I've not got one handy. Thought I had one in my stash behind me, but I've not So you can get them now. That will speed this process up a little bit. And obviously the more needles that you're putting into there, the quicker your roving will felt in. But if not, just use your one needle and keep stabbing. I'm going to carry on with that until we're more or less there. So I will see you back in a moment. Okay. Now I've more or less got that into a shape, that the heel part into a shape that I want. I'm just going to now size up the piece for the first toe. So I've just taken some roving that I think is going to be about the right size. And then going to needle felt that into position. So if I start by doing the centre, and then I can start then shaping the edges in. I just tend to lift the roving up with my needle. You see that? If you take it and lift it into position, into roughly the shape that you want, and then work that inwards. So I'm aiming for a nice oval shape there. So again, it's all by eye. Now what you can do, if you're not very comfortable doing that by eye, if you take your template and cut out the shapes. Now that is for the large foot, so this is a 70% smaller size foot, so it's not going to fit for this one, but it'll just show you how you could go about it. What you can do is take your template onto your mat, onto your felting mat, take some roving. Now the way I do the roving, if I take some roving off the length of the thing and roll it up like that, this is how I start. You can start by doing it onto your mat. I'm just changing to the thicker needle there. And then you can use the templates as a guide, so you can more or less make the roving into the shape that you want onto the foot before you actually put it onto the foot there. And it can just make it easier for you if that's the way you wish to work. So again, just stabbing in. So we've got that more or less the size that we want it to be. Bear in mind, don't make it the same size, keep it a little bit bigger, because when you're felting it will shrink in a little bit. So make it kind of the size that you want. Lift it off your mat. Now when you're using a felting mat, your wool fibres will go into the mat, so you need to be very careful that you lift it off gently. So you've got one toe there, and then you'll be able to put that on into the centre of where it needs to be. So that's another way that you can go about it. Make them on your mat first, know that they're roughly the same size as you need them to be, and then place them onto your foot and carry on that way. So if you can see by the difference in these two, you can see we've got a little bit of a way to go to felt that one in to be the right size. And see that? So if we keep felting that one in, the fibres will felt inwards, and that size will get a lot smaller. So that's just another way you can go about it. I need to get back to my smaller needle for doing it into the fur. So again, going into the side, shaping those sides as you go. keep losing you on the camera there. So if you can see on here, you can see that the heel that I started earlier is a lot flatter because those fibres have been felted right into the foot. So see on that one there, we've got a lot of depth on your roving on that one, so we need to keep felting and get that one in place. Okay, so I'm going to continue with that one and I'll be back soon. So I'm working on the third toe now. I just want to do these on the mat to make sure that they're all going to be roughly the same size. When you're pulling off your roving, you can pull off the similar amounts when you start, so you know you've got equal amounts of wool. It's probably not going to be a great idea to wait because it's just getting a little bit too finicky there, but just pull off roughly the same amount of fibres, and then you know that you're going to have even toes. So I've probably got a little bit too much in this left one. So before I finish felting, you can just remove a little bit. And I do it by feel. Just remove some fibres. And then you can, you know, judge that they're even by size and by feel. If you do use too much in one side, it just means that you've got to felt more, and so you know your fibres get felted into the leg more than the other one. So you can start by judging on your foot where the toes are going to be. Like I said, when you're judging the sizing, these sides will always get felted in wood, so they can overlap. That isn't a problem. I think that one's still going to be a little bit too thick. So remove some fibres, reshape it. Watch your fingers, don't stab yourself like I've just done. Get your toe into a rough shape that you need it to be. And I think that one's a little bit thinner with fibres. So I can add some fibres to that one by putting them in on the top. Okay, so I'll try them up to the foot again. I think that is going to work. So keeping to this shape that we've got on the template here. And to felt those into the foot a little bit more. Just watch your outer seams on your foot where you've attached the foot pad to your leg. You don't want to be felting through towards those, so just keep a little bit of a distance around the side there. Felting in the middle to get that firmly attached. and then you can work in sideways from the edge. And rounding your toes off. To the shape to match your template. Now, one thing that I do to help shape the sides, and it's not going to do your nails any good, but I tend to push in the sides with my nail and then felt up towards it. Like I said, just be very, very careful. You are not going to felt your nail. It hurts. But it just helps keep the roving in place. Like that, down the side, but not onto your nail. And as you can see, the more you felt, the better your shape will be on your toe. And I shall come back to you when we've more or less finished the 3 toes. Okay, so we've got the foot pads more or less where we want them to be now, and it's just a case of neatening them up and felting them in. If you can see, they are still a little bit raised off the foot, so I would suggest just keep going, working on that until it's nice and smooth and your roving is very well felted. The smoother you can get that, the better. So as you can see on this one, you've still got quite a lot of bumps and things on there, so that isn't felted enough. You just need to keep on going. It's one of these things that you can't really rush is felting. You need to make sure that all your fibres are all felted in until it's nice and smooth on the surface. You will have quite a nice thick felt pad when it's done properly. The more you spend time with your needle, the better your results will be at the end of it. So keep on going, keeping your shape as you go, until you've got all the pads felted very firmly and the surface is nice and smooth, and that your foot felt pad is felted deeply into the foot rather than just sat on top of the fibres, on top of your fur. And again, shaping it round that corner. And continue working that that wool into your foot. I shall keep on going and come back to you when it's finished. Okay, so we've been felting for quite a while now, but you can see that the wool is nice and flat, a lot flatter than it was, and it's been felted into that foot, into the fibre fill inside, and it's nice and firm. Now you can leave the foot markings just as they are and have them a bit fluffy. In the past I have gone over this with a liquid latex just to set the wool in place and just to give it a little bit of a paw pad, more of a paw pad feel really. So you can buy that quite reasonably enough online, so just brush liquid latex over there. You can also get some alcohol marker pens and just colour around the foot pads to finish those off. But I think even if you just left them like they are for your first attempt, I think it just gives a lovely finish. And especially if you're using a longer pile fur, the fur will grow all the way around your foot pads and it just makes it look beautiful. But there you go, the needle felted foot pads.